so much food. I had raisin bread, honey. Somebody brought me a jar of barbecue sauce. But the best thing was a dear, sweet Southern Baptist lady brought me homemade chocolate-covered Nutter Butters.
Ooh, homemade.
I was speaking in tongues like a Pentecostal. I kid you not.
Well, then that didn't go over too well with the Southern Baptist ladies, did it?
Well, since I'm a Baptist-Costal, I interpret,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
it all works out in the end.
Yeah. Hey, seriously, you did drop. You wrote. You talked about your story in one of your books where you dropped what 50, 60 pounds or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. Had to have open heart surgery, so there was had a little incentive to cut down
To
on
live?
Thank you, Tim.
Well, just to
That'll
cut,
do it.
Just to cut right to the butter.
The doctor said you had a choice.
Yeah, I understand. Well, you
So,
didn't.
but yeah, absolutely. And so the book is my first book. They popped my hood and found gravy on the dipstick. Very.
Hey, ToddStarnes.com, everybody. He'll be here tomorrow night.
Bring a friend.
Yeah, ToddStarnes.com. Todd's his day job is a news reporter for the Fox Radio News channel. Let's talk about this story. A three-letter word, which is a four-letter word for most Americans, is IRS. Todd, and you had a story. We all know about the IRS targeting the conservative groups, namely the Tea Party groups under the Obama administration, which is what they did here was. It's got to be criminal, in my opinion. But you got a story. You had a story up on your website about getting even more detailed than that about the IRS telling a pro-life group what they could and couldn't do.
Yeah, that's right, Tim. And before I begin, if you guys hear any clicking noises, just want to caution you guys, it's either the Department of Justice or the Internal Revenue Service listening in.
Yeah, you're not their favorite person right now.
No, they're not.
Okay.
Look, I think one of the more egregious parts of this IRS scandal is not really being reported, and that's the investigations they launched on people of evangelical Christian faith. We know that the Internal Revenue Service targeted Billy Graham, the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association. They went after the State Baptist newspaper in North Carolina. They also went after Samaritan's Purse. And you mentioned those prayers. They targeted two pro-life groups, one in Texas and one in Iowa. And they actually ordered these groups to disclose the content of the prayers they prayed.
You're pulling our legs.
No, I wish I was, Tim, and it's so egregious that we actually asked for written documentation, and their attorneys, the Thomas More Society, sent us actual copies of the letters the IRS sent to these organizations, and there it was in black and white. They wanted to know the content of the prayers they prayed.
These are pro-life groups, the Coalition for Life of Iowa, and that's the Iowa group you mentioned, Christian Voices for Life of Fort Bend County, Texas. Now, both of these groups were seeking tax-exempt status, but both of them held prayer vigils outside of abortion clinics. And so what the IRS was saying is, before we give you your tax-exempt status, we want to know what you pray when you're outside those abortion clinics. Is that correct?
That's correct. And not only that, they made them promise in writing that they would not march or protest at any Planned Parenthood or any abortion clinics. They went so far as to tell another pro-life group that they had to provide the balanced information. So this has
no place. The IRS can't do this. I mean, they can, but they're not supposed to.
I don't know about you guys, but I'd be more than happy to disclose my prayer about the IRS. But guys,
where can people find this story? I want to continue on for another couple. But where can people find this story, this particular story?
They can find it at ToddStarnes.com. We have the story there. And Tim, one other thing that I think should send chills down the backs of every person listening. The U.S. Senator from Wyoming said on Capitol Hill that one church, one Christian church in his district, was told by the IRS that they had to turn over their membership rolls to the federal government. Let that sink in for just a moment.
Say that again.
A church in Wyoming had to turn over, they were told by the Internal Revenue Service to turn over their membership rolls to the federal government.
In exchange, I mean, was this during the process of trying to get a tax-exempt status? What were the circumstances?
We don't know the particulars of this. I talked to the congressman's chief of staff, and they were not willing to give us more details. And I suspect, for whatever reason, but it very well may be that they're afraid of further repercussions. But the idea that the federal government is demanding to know who goes to what church and what they're praying, gentlemen, this is 1930s Germany kind of stuff right here.
Yeah, or communist China. It's what happens in a totalitarian state.
Well, we're talking yesterday, Todd. I'm sure you're familiar with this. You probably have written about it, about some of the protests about what the IRS has been doing that have been going on in cities, including a protest, I think a Tea Party gathering here in Tupelo, Mississippi, where our flagship station is. And we've seen photos of these big SUVs with Department of Homeland Security on the side of it. And these pictures are coming in from all over the country. Wherever these protests about IRS intrusions into religious affairs, there is the Department of Homeland Security. Have you been following these kinds of stories as well?
Oh, I have. And, on Friday, I had the honor of speaking at the Family Research Council's Watchmen on the Wall event in Washington, D.C. And I heard Tony Perkins say something that really resonated and sort of rattled my bones. He said that the line has been crossed. And the question now is, what will people of faith in America do? On the March for Life, we see about 250,000 people, 98% of them Roman Catholics, demonstrating their faith in God and in the pro-life movement by marching in the streets of Washington. Why is it that evangelical Christians? Why is it that that we aren't doing that? What is it going to take for evangelicals to rise up and to march on the nation's capital and to let our voices collectively be heard and say we are not going to be relegated to second-class citizens in this nation? What's it going to take?
Well, that's why we're here.
Right.
And I know that's why you do what you do, inform and motivate and try to get people to wake up, see what's going on. And a lot of people have. Look at the historic changeover in Congress in 2000 and in 10. Hey, Todd, I wish we had more time. We've got to run. All your stuff is at toddstarnes.com. STAR, except for your recipes.
Tim, we got recipes.
Whenever.
We have recipes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, go to toddstarnes.com for everything you need to know about life.
And it's not. Yeah, we don't do any of this vegetarian stuff.
I understand.
We're meat-eating patriots.
I understand.
Patriots.
Hey, thanks, Todd. Appreciate it, my friend.
Thanks, fellas.
All right, Todd Starnes.